Well, it's martini time again. I bet you forgot. I bet you thought I forgot since I'm a half hour late. So the reason I'm late is because I was watching the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Humphrey Bogart movie, in which might have been his best movie, and I just got it at. Well, that's going to be backwards. Anyway, Humphrey Bogart straight. But it just, it was over at Costco the other day, and I picked it up. And so it, I guess I'd seen it when it first came out many years ago, or sometime. But it's always good to see these old movies, because you see the metaphorical theme. You know, to me, you've matured since you saw them the first time. So when you see them the second time, you see them in a new light. It's kind of like going back and reading a book, particularly a spiritual book or a book of wisdom, and you read it when you're young or many years, and then you come back 10, 20 years later and you see more in it than you did the first time, which is a measure of your growth. But the movie's about the treasure of the Sierra Madre. Now, Sierra means mountain, I think, and Madre must mean mother. So this is the treasure of the mother mountain. And usually the treasure is wisdom. But the people in the movies usually mistake the treasure for some form. In this particular case, it was gold, where you had 3 gold miners going up into the mountain, and they mined this gold. And Humphrey Bogart became paranoid with greed and fear that the others were going to take his gold. And so he eventually ended up by being killed by bandits. And the bandits, not knowing that the gold, they thought it was sand in the donkey's back, so they just poured it out and tried to sell the donkeys. And so a big wind came and blew the gold dust back up to the mountain. And the other 2 prospectors, who maintained their sanity, when they realized that all their efforts was just dust, gold dust in the air, and they just laughed and laughed and laughed. And reminded me of Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, when they were seeking the Holy Grail, and in the end they didn't get the Holy Grail, and they got out with enlightenment. And Zorba the Greek, when all their plans fell down the mountain and everything was in ruins, and they danced. So this was kind of like that. They just laughed. These 2 prospectors just laughed and laughed. And it's kind of corny. It's kind of, it's a generic movie theme. Errol Flynn, all of the, when all the plans of mice and men go astray, it's all blown away. And you just see the absurdity in it, and you laugh, and you, having learned wisdom. But I was interested in the mother, the mountain, the wisdom of the mother. And you see this theme in a lot of movies. It's in mythology, where the mother gives with what she gives with one hand, she takes back with the other. Penelope in the Odysseus, Voyage of Odysseus, she was a metaphor for the mother. And she, to hold off the suitors, she weaves during the day and unravels it at night. And in the life of Pi, you had the carnivorous island. And when our hero, Pi, leaves, he says, what the island gives during the day, it takes away at night. So this theme of the mother, which is the phenomenal world, is a giving and a taking. And in Hindu mythology, Shiva is the god of destruction and creation. Let me show you a picture of Shiva. All right, so this is a statue of the dancing Nataraj. And so in one hand he has the time of destruction and in the other hand, he has the fire of creation. And so these two hands are going, creation and destruction, and he's dancing and dancing, and we fear, and when you see the ambiguity of life, that everything turns to dust, the liberated hand points to the free foot and says, wait, if you stand on ignorance, which is this little thing here, if you stand on that, you will see through this illusion and have wisdom of enlightenment. So the movie, was a metaphor for seeing through the illusion that you can separate the gold from the earth and keep it to yourself, that you can separate the treasure, the good from the bad, that you can separate the two hands. One gives, one takes. Whatever is given is going to be taken away. It's kind of like ground zero. And if you add 5 positive numbers this way, you're going to get 5 negative numbers that way. So balance is always restored to zero. So reality is always ground zero, and whatever we do to get treasure is going to create an opposite energy of a negative, you see. But the negative comes to us as the future. In other words, when we separate the positive from the negative and we don't understand that life is creation and destruction, that it's ground zero, when we try to take without giving back, the obstacle or the destruction to our desire is going to come at us in the world as, like in this case, the bandits. So the bandits were really the manifestation of his own greed. See, so when we fail to see through the illusion of form and try to grasp the treasure without understanding the opposite forces, the effects, the counterbalance, without understanding that life is a teeter-totter, and if you go one way, there's going to be an opposite force the other way, so that life always stays at ground zero, you see. But we're always trying to tip it our way, and the opposite weight comes at us as enemies, obstacles, bad fortune, or whatever, you see. But so we don't see it because we think, well, that's just bad luck or somebody else is coming out, and we don't see that we created that. So the wisdom of the mountain is that we are creating the world that we live in. And if we're out of balance, the world we live in is going to be out of balance, but it will appear to be caused by something else instead of ourselves. So we don't recognize and accept the fact that we create the world that we live in, each of us, in the same way that a movie producer creates the movie and then lives in it with his actors, you see. And if we go to a movie, we are actually creating the movie with our perception and then living in the movie. Just as the artist creates the art and then lives in it, you see. So we're creating the world as a work of our art, and we're living in it. We're the creator of it, and we are conditioned by it. So we create the world, and we're conditioned by what we create. And this is not this is not the way our Western world sees everything, you see. We see it as just a bunch of things moving around and get what you can, and it's survival of the fittest, and I'm going to get my gold and forget about you, you see. Anyway, I really enjoyed the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and it was good to see Humphrey Bogart demonstrate his ability to really go crazy. So, thank you, and I'll see you in the morning.